Good evening and good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Athens-Clarke County, Georgia Unified Government Mayoral Runoff Debate! Hey! Give yourself a round of applause for talking about democracy! How's it going?
What are we doing tonight?
We're going to have a great time.
All right. Well,
I'm Russell Edwards, co-host at AthChat, with my co-host Drew Abney.
hey everybody.
Hey everybody. We have two mayoral candidates. Give a round of applause, Mr. Dexter Fisher and Mr. Denson. You may have seen in the building this evening this beautiful vaudeville theater that belongs to the community of Athens, the Morton Theater.
The citizens.
We have some celebrity ushers. Miss Gwynaludi, give a round of applause. Thanks to her, the Bailey House. Miss Hattie Thomas Whitehead, the board chair of the Center for Racial Justice and Black Futures in Littleton. We have Mr. Fred Smith, the director of the Athens College Foundation. And we have Winterville Mayor Dodd Farrell, also ushering people. Mayor Dodd.
You can see here, we'll just remind you all day long that the election day is June 16th for that runoff, but you can do early voting if you want to. So the format today, because there's only two candidates, we're going to give you more time to elaborate some of the policies that you have, the vision that you have for the next 4 years. We're also going to allow for more discourse. So if you have questions that you want to ask each other, we'll keep that within reason, and we'll let you know how much time you will have. But we really want to give you all the space to talk about your vision for the next 4 years in Athens-Clarke County. But before we do that, we need to figure out the order of who's going to go first. There's only one way to do it.
Rock, paper, scissors! Let's go! Okay, 1, 2, 3, shoot. Get ready, gentlemen. 1, 2, 3, shoot! Oh, Mr. Fisher. Your opening statement, sir. Take it away.
Well, good afternoon. Hope all y'all are doing well. What a great day. First, I want to thank Russell and Drew for putting this on. And what a great facility to be standing here tonight. It was founded by Mr. Pink Morton back in the 30s and 40s. And think about all the entertainers that came to this stage: Cab Calloway, Bessie Smith, Lena Horne. Just think about the historical connection of that in this particular building here. And then think about the historical connection that you all have an opportunity to elect your first black mayor. So I think Pete Morton would be very proud that I'm sitting on this stage right now, possibly leading this community as your next mayor. Just a little bit about myself. How much time I got, guys? Y'all didn't give me a time limit.
About a minute.
Got a minute left. A little bit about myself. Well, you know, we've been through this, and Tim and I talked, but we had 15 of these things just doing a regular session, and some of y'all came out and heard some of our spiel. But tonight, I think you're really going to have an opportunity to really find out who you want as your next mayor. You want somebody who's an activist or somebody who can govern? And I'm the guy that can do that. So I'm looking forward to this tonight. I'm looking forward to the anticipation of what you all want from us as the next candidate for mayor. And I really enjoyed being here, and thank you for coming out, and may God bless you.
Good evening, folks. I am Tim Denson, also candidate for mayor of Athens-Clarke County. And I'm running first and foremost because we need to have an Athens, Georgia that works for everyone and that is affordable for everyone. Over the last few years especially, it has become very expensive to be able to live in this community. With housing costs, with food costs, gas prices, all of these things. And a lot of those things we don't have control over in the local government, but some of them we do. And we need a local government that's going to work on that. That's why if I'm elected, one of the main priorities I'm going to have is working on lowering the cost of housing for homeowners and renters alike. I also want to focus on childcare. For a lot of working class families, that's the second largest expense for them when they have young children, and create a local childcare subsidy program so that we can make sure that more working class families can have access to that quality childcare they deserve. And the third big plank of my platform is to reduce homelessness here in Athens-Clarke County. Something that's very important to me, something I've been working on for the last few years, directly working in homeless services, specifically working to actually get those who are facing homelessness into housing and to help remove the barriers that cause the homelessness there in the first place. The reason I'm doing this is, though, because I love this community, and that can sound kind of corny, but it's very true. I moved around a lot as a kid. My parents were preachers, and we didn't stick in one place for a long time. So I never really felt like I had a hometown until I came here to Athens over 22 years ago now. And I just want to make sure that the experience that I've had here in Athens, Georgia, of having a loving community that helped me get through hard times, that helped me prosper, I want to make sure that every other person here in Athens, Georgia has that same experience. And I believe that we can do that. And I enjoy having the opportunity to talk to you more about it here this evening. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, Jimmy. Diving right into the hot topics of the day, housing. We have numerous housing studies currently on the shelf somewhere locally that all show we are short about 6,000 homes. The most recent data compiled by the University of Georgia analyzing our housing market from 2019 to 2023 found that out of 32,681 units for rent, only 684 units were available for rent, a vacancy rate of 2.1%. According to the Federal Reserve and data updated May 1st, 2026, the average listing price of a single-family home in Athens-Clarke County is $602,000. A housing shortage benefits landlords and home sellers who can name their price. In a quote from the New York Times today, the national pattern is clear. The way to bring down housing costs is to increase housing supply. Mr. Fisher, you won rock, paper, scissors. What is your plan to increase supply and bring our housing costs under control?
Well, 2 minutes. Okay, first of all, thank you, Russell. And I think one thing we got to realize, first of all, that when it comes to our housing, we're landlocked. So my candidate, or my opponent always talk about density. And the 4 years that I've been on this commission, every time we talk about adding more density, our neighbors come out and say they don't want density. My idea would be, we own land, the government does, and we need to take a look at that land that we own to make sure that we can use some of that housing for people that need housing. Now, one of the things we got missing is what I call the missing middle. You know, we can provide houses. We got AthChat, we got the land bank, and we got other entities, but when it comes to our missing middle, we got an issue here. You can't put houses in place if you don't have the land for it. One of the things I think we got to do, we got to be smart about where we're going to put housing. And more density is not the answer. Now, yes, if we had more density, it would bring down the cost of housing. But because we're landlocked, and we got to keep in mind that we have to have an infrastructure in place to support that housing. So we got to look at where we can put housing. We're going to do a new development on Overpolicing right now for senior housing. Good project, 130 units. Those are the type of things we have to look at where we can build at and where we can't build at. We did our future land use. We need to take a look at that. And then we got to take a look at our zoning ordinance. You just can't stick houses out anywhere without having a zoning ordinance that have not been updated for the last 25 years. So just say that we're going to have affordability, that's a pipe dream. We got to really take a look at that, understand where we can put housing at, and build from there. Now, we are building housing, close to 4,000 single-family houses right now. But the cost of those housing are high. So again, we got to look at how do we get that missing middle and get those into housing. And I think we need to study that, take a look at it, and make sure we can be smart about when we're looking at how we do housing in this community.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Denson, do we add density or create more sprawl?
Here's the thing. The idea that housing affordability, that cannot be a pipe dream. That is unacceptable. The cost of housing here is too high, it's unsustainable, and the people who are going to get pushed out are working class Athenians on fixed incomes. The people who are going to be able to afford to come in here and pay for the high price of housing are people on the outside, people coming from more wealthy communities. But the people who are going to be pushed out are going to be the people who run this community, and that is unacceptable. There is no way that we can have a mayor who's going to say affordability is a pipe dream. again, like I said during my opening statement, that is going to be my #1 focus, because that's what the people here in this community need. And we do need to have density. That is going to be one of the key ways that we do it. Missing middle housing is density. To explain, missing middle housing is right now what we get a lot of times is single family housing, not dense at all, and high rises like we have down here downtown of like student housing, which are very, very dense, but very large and very limited to where they can be put. The missing middle is the stuff in between, which oftentimes is triplexes, quadplexes, cottage courts, smaller apartment buildings like we have in normal town and such. Those are the kind of things that we do need to have. And we have had studies that have shown exactly the nodes that are best fit for that and that have the infrastructure for it. It is much more costly for us to build infrastructure for sprawling houses, single-family houses on the outside of the county than it is for us to build it in dense areas that already have the infrastructure for it. That means it's going to be cheaper for all of us. But again, it's not acceptable for us to say we can't make it affordable. We absolutely have to.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Fisher, you talked about remarks about addressing zoning ordinances, outdated zoning. And then you also talked about missing middle, and one thing struck me, in our commercial general zoning here in Athens, Georgia, you can only build 24 bedrooms per acre. In our commercial downtown zoning, you can build 200. So it's quite a jump, our missing middle, correct? What zoning ordinances would you champion to change with the gavel?
I think the one thing that we need to look at is we're tied into when it comes to single family homes, it has to be 1,000 square foot or more. I would take a look at, can we do tiny homes? Can we do manufacturing homes? Those are the type of things that you have to look at when you're trying to look at, when we talk about zoning, Russell. And I think that's important because right now our zoning laws, they're outdated. And that's unfortunate that they are. And we have not kept up with the time. I think what happened was this town grew so fast. I've been here close to 40 years. When I first moved here, Athens was 75,000, UGA was 25,000. Now we got 130,000 people that live here, 40,000 at UGA. So the town has exploded for it comes to population. So again, but we landlocked though, and we got too much student housing. My opponent has supported more and more student housing. That doesn't work for me. For example, we did with the Foundry property. They're doing 1,400 beds in that Foundry property. What you get into is in a predominantly black neighborhood. So that's where all the gentrification happens. And we have done gentrification in this community for the last 20, 25 years. And they're always pushing out African-American people. So that's where your density goes in those neighborhoods. It's not fair to those people. And he's right. We do need to make sure that people that live here in this community can afford to live here. But if we continue to give people the opportunity to go into those communities, build student housing, and put your neighborhood out, that's not working for me. So that's why I'm saying when I talk about
Sorry.
But that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, Little around. Mr. Denson, same question. What zoning ordinances changes would you champion? And go for it.
Can I ask a question here? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Fisher, you just said that you're against having more student housing.
I am.
But then you also said that you're against the student housing being pushed into these neighborhoods, which I am also completely opposed to. You yourself have admitted that UGA is going to have at least 400 new students every year coming in here. Mm-hmm. So where are those people going to go if you're opposed to us having dense student housing, but also opposed to having student housing in those neighborhoods? Where are those people going to live? So
for me, and I've had conversations with UGA already, they're also looking at building more dorms on that campus. It's one of the things that they're looking at. They're building a 500-bed dorm right now, right there on Lincoln Street. And one of the conversations that I'm having with them is how can they build more dorms on that campus to make sure more students stay in that particular area. We made a mistake as a community to start letting those student housing go into those neighborhoods. And that's bad for us and bad for what the government did for over the last 20, 30 years. We got to do better by the people that live here. You don't see these type of student housing in other neighborhoods that look like me. So the problem I got with that is we got to make sure when we start looking at trying to put student housing or any type of housing, that housing going to fit that community. Everybody want to push students downtown. And again, it comes with an infrastructure problem. That particular new, on the Foundry project, we had to add in more sewer and water capacity to get that project online. So again, if you're doing more density downtown, then you got to add in more infrastructure. It doesn't fit.
Thank you. A quick follow-up maybe for both of y'all. Obviously this housing is so important, and it's what is clearly within the authority of the local government. Okay, so I hear two arguments often in Athens. One, UGA owns too much property and they don't pay any property tax. And then, on the next breath is, there's too many apartments being built. So I guess my question is, would we rather have UGA get more land or build more dorms that contribute nothing to our property tax rolls, or would it be preferable to allow for the construction of apartments that do contribute property tax to the tax roll?
So, I think that's part of this problem, and that's the thing. We have to be realistic about this. UGA is building its first new dorm in how many? 4 years? 4 or 5 years. So I think right now they have about 18% housing. They can house 18% of undergrads. So if that's the case, again, where are these? 500 beds. That's enough for 1 year. That's enough for 1 year, y'all. And that's if that UGA actually keeps that promise that they're only going to have 400 to 600 new students coming here. We have to have a plan so that we don't have what's happening right now. What's happening right now is that students are moving into our single-family neighborhoods, and they're taking up the housing there, and they're living there. And especially in, historic black neighborhoods like East Athens. So therefore, there has to be an alternative to doing that. There has to be. We can dream all we want to, but we have to actually be realistic about this. And so then we can say UGA is going to build more apartments. They're not, I don't think they're going to anywhere close to the rate they would need to. They would need to be building literally thousands of new beds every single year to be able to catch up within the next 15 years. So that's why I'm pushing that we create a student housing overlay district close to campus where we can be encouraging the development in a dense way that's right there next to campus so that we don't have those folks coming in and taking up the beds and the houses in our neighborhoods and communities.
Mr. Fisher, So again, what's preferable, the dorms that don't pay tax or the apartments?
I think it's the same thing that we're talking about. Okay, we want to add more housing in our community for the people that live here, but why shouldn't we not be having those conversations with UJ about them building more dorms on that particular campus? Those conversations they're real conversations we need to have. We need to, as mayor, I'm going to push them. I need for you all to start building more dorms on your campus so we have more people in this community that can live. Now, the reason our rent is so high, let's don't get it twisted. It's a student-driven market. And it has driven a lot of our residents out of their homes, especially when people die off. Relatives may sell that property, so that causes a problem. But we really got, and again, when I say pipe dream, we got to realize we're landlocked. We're the smallest geographical county in the state of Georgia out of 159 counties. So again, we got to figure out what we're going to do this density, where we're going to put those housing. And I'm just, we just need, to me, what I have suggested, Russell and Drew, is put a pause on all our construction, and let's really find out how many beds do we have in this community. And I think that's a realistic look that we need to take a look at.
Mr. Fisher, following up on the point you just made about possible building moratorium, how long do you think you would support enacting a moratorium on new construction to find out what we need to find out?
No more than, for me, no more than 180 days. That would be 6 months. If I had to push it back, and I have to push our staff to make sure we do it, I would do a 90-day moratorium just to get a feel. Say, okay, these are the number of beds that we have in this community. And then we figure out, okay, who do those beds belong to? Are they student housing? Are they single-family housing? Are they apartment housing? And we have never done that in this community. I'm not sure why people get so upset about when I talk about trying to pause construction to really find out what our housing issue is. To me, we need to know that. And the housing is just not tied to Athens-Clarke County. Housing is a problem all over this country, all over the state of Georgia. Only thing I'm asking is, we really want to know what our housing issue is. Let's find out how many beds that are actually in. And right now, I don't think nobody knows the answer to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Denson, what's your feeling on a moratorium for housing construction for 180 days?
I'm opposed to it because we know how many beds. Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, we have a gig team. They have proposals coming this next week before the commission. Everybody, y'all can Google it. Google the Athens, Georgia Initiative Community Housing Study. They did a study of how many beds we have. How many of them are in single residential and mixed residential, student housing. They came up with the density number. I mean, we had been coming into this, Russell, you stated very precise stats. Y'all, we're not a stupid community. We have very smart people here who understand these problems, and they have been studied. We have economists, we have world-renowned economists at the University of Georgia who have, again, stats presented by them. We know this stuff. And the idea that we're gonna stop for 6 months just because potentially my opponent hasn't read those studies is not fair, because that's gonna put us 6 months further behind actually being able to solve this housing problem and solve this affordability problem.
Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, you know how many studies we have done on how many housing, and like you said earlier, that's set on the shelf. That thing's going back and forth. And yes, it is going to come before the commission. And the reason I hadn't read it, because I want to make sure that publicly right now that all our people that live in this community can see it at the same time I can see it. So once I get it, I'll take a look. And if there's good data in there, then no, I would not propose a pause. But at the same time, we've never done that. And again, not trying to hurt developers. But I think, I said 90 days or 180, but we just need to take a look at it. And you know what, Tim? You're exactly right. We got a lot of smart people that live in this community, a lot of people at UGA that can help us with those things. But at the same time, and that's part of the problem sometimes. We do knee-jerk reaction to try to solve problems, not taking a look at what needs to be done, how we can really solve our housing issue. And it's just not going to go away easily. And we got to figure out where we're going to build at. And that's my number one thing. Where are you going to put the density at? And again, I tell you all, every time we talk about density, people are lined up at the door at City Hall saying, we don't want more density. So unlike you, in one instance where a neighborhood kept coming out again and again and again and said, we don't want housing, and you voted against those people in Nottingham because you thought it was the best interest for that housing and not for the people that you represented, and that did not happen. So we're not going to force feed you all on density, and we should not do that as a government, and I will not do that as your mayor.
Mr. Denson, if you'd like to respond maybe to the question of, these projects get proposed to build housing, to build a supply, and folks whose backyard may be impacted by a new building come to the podium and they complain, they get very upset, and they feel this fear of change that might be coming in this community. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, I'll be honest with y'all. I'm not going to say the most popular thing and tell every one of you that I'm going to do exactly what you want me to do as mayor, because that's a lie. I'm not. What I'm going to do is what's going to be best for this community. And if we just keep saying no to building more housing, again, while we have very wealthy people moving here, because Athens is a lovely place to live, and we keep seeing the people who work at the University of Georgia, the people who work at our restaurants, who work at our retail stores, who run this community, and if we keep on seeing them get pushed out of their housing and having to go and move outside of the county or find a new place to live, that's unacceptable to me. And I am gonna work, and you know what? Sometimes some people aren't gonna like the choices I make. That's being a good leader, y'all. If we just were gonna do what the most popular thing is at one given moment, we don't even need a person for that. Just do a little straw poll and we do that thing. But guess what? We'd have a pretty screwed up community if we had that. So yeah, I will be honest. Commissioner Fisher, you are correct. I am not gonna do whatever people come and complain about. I'm gonna make the hard decisions to do what's best for my community.
Supporter of direct democracy, straw polls, or representative democracy?
I think, well, again, you all going to be making a decision who you're going to want your next mayor. So do you want a mayor who's just going to force feed you and what he thinks you all should have? Or do you want a mayor that's going to listen to you, take a look at what we really need, and get the job done? See, this ain't my first rodeo. I understand how to get things done. I understand how to connect the dots. You just can't force feed people. I would not be a mayor who I'm going to slam down my own personal agenda down your throat and expect for it to be okay. That is democracy. But you all elected us to make decisions for this community. So if you're going to get up here and say, I'm going to make decisions based on what I think is best for the community, that's the wrong thing. I'm going to make decisions based on what you all have said put us in office to do. That's what we do as elected officials, and that's part of the problem. Too many elected officials stop listening to the people that put them there and got their own agenda. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is the Athens agenda. It's the people that live here, and that's what I'm going to support 100% of the time.
So we're kind of front loading, we're giving more time and space to these first initial topics.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll kind of get rolling. So on our related topic of homelessness, Mr. Denson, this will go for you first. You'll have about 2 minutes initially. On our recent podcast, AthChat, where you can find on Spotify or Apple, wherever you find your podcasts, we talked about this question of homelessness with pretty much everybody. And I want to contextualize this question by telling you something that Commissioner Mike Handy said. So Commissioner Mike Handy said that to solve the homelessness problem in our community, we're going to make both progressives and conservatives upset in some ways. You don't have to agree or disagree with him. Commissioner Handy said, we will likely make some progressives upset because we will need to come to terms with the fact that it is not compassionate to accept that it is okay to have people sleeping on our streets. He also said we will make some conservatives upset because we will need to spend money to fix this problem. Can you give us specific examples of policy that you want to pass here in Athens-Clarke County that will help mitigate the problem of homelessness? And again, we're going to be asking for specific examples and specific policies. Mr. Benson, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And again, that's a perfect example as what Commissioner Hamby said. People are not going to be happy with everything. This is the thing. And therefore, if we're kind of go the way that we're always going to listen to every single person, what that gets you is honestly what's been happening a lot at City Hall lately. Nothing. Nothing gets done. Because always the easiest thing for an elected official to do is nothing. Because people do not get into, I'm talking right now, sir, thank you. And so if we want to get something done.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's going to be chill. There's no heckling. All right. We're in this beautiful theater. We plunk down the cash to rent this thing to hear from these candidates. Okay. Thanks. Go ahead.
And I'll definitely be in the hallway. I'm happy to talk to you in the hallway, whatever person you have there. And so, yeah, and it's true. And I think what I've been saying is the one thing that I think this entire community can agree on is that we don't want homelessness happening here. I want to start from there. And yeah, we're going to have to bring the people to the table, definitely some people with more conservative ideas, some people with more progressive ideas to work on those solutions. Specifically, for specifics, one thing is we don't have nearly enough emergency shelter beds. We have 1 emergency shelter in town. I know people talk about Salvation Army, Family Promise, none of those are emergency shelters. If you found yourself homeless tonight right now, there's 1 place that you could get into tonight, and that's Bigger Vision, that has somewhere between 30 and 46 beds at one given time. So we need to have more emergency shelter beds. We need to be also, we need to have more case managers and people working directly with these folks. The work that I do, because that's the only way that you're gonna be able to do a housing first model that works, meaning that you get somebody into housing and then you actually have a case manager working with them to remove the barriers, whether that be addiction, whether that be mental health issues, physical health issues, domestic violence issues, whatever those things are, to be able to address those things. And then also, yeah, the biggest part, we're gonna have to have funding. It is going to cost us money. But if we actually want this to go away, if we want to stop seeing homelessness here in our community, we're gonna have to spend that money and start helping people. And I believe that if we present it right, and I plan on working with all these folks, the university, the school district, the hospitals, which are spending millions, to all come around and work on this issue together.
Can you give us some specific examples of policy that we can help mitigate the issue of homelessness here in Clarke County?
Actually, I agree with Mr. Denson. We don't have enough housing for our homeless population. And again, I think one of the things we got to look at, though, where can we put those particular facilities? Right now, we're getting ready to build a 60-bed facility, actually in my district on Mitchell Bridge Road with Advantage. It's going to be for people that deal with mental health issues, substance abuse. So that would give us 90 beds to help us deal with people that are dealing with mental health and substance abuse. So that's a start right there. And again, I do agree with him. We need more housing for our homeless population. I think one of the mistakes that we made when we got the $57 million from ARPA, we really could have did something right then. What we did do, we did a homeless encampment. I wouldn't have voted for the homeless encampment. What I would have voted for, though, there was a building sitting right there on that property. We should have renovated that building. We probably could have served up to 150 to 200 people right there in that facility to help with our housing situation. I would be looking at spaces that may be available where we can do things like that. And he's right, it is going to cost money. But the way we're going to pay for that is we got to bring our faith-based community to the table. We got to bring our business community to the table. He's right, UGA, the school district, our hospital. There got to be a lot of partners involved for us to do that. So I don't disagree with him where we're going with this, but we got to do it the right way. One of the problems that we're having, though, and don't nobody want to admit it, we got more people get dropped off in our community, and that should not be happening. Other communities should not be dropping off people from their community in our space, and that takes up the resources actually for the people that are here that need those resources. So we got to take a look at that and see why that is happening on a continuous basis.
Thank you. So we're going to have a follow-up question, Mr. Denson, when you first. So there's some talk out there that people are being bused into our community, and it's kind of a disagreement you hear. Some people think it's happening, some people say it's a lie. Okay? A study a couple of years ago showed that around 70% of the homeless population are Athenians. Mr. Denson, are people being bused to Athens-Clarke County? Do you believe that? Can you say more on what you've seen?
Yeah, and they're not. So that new development that's being built on Mitchell Bridge Road, I work there every single week. I've been watching them. They're actually on the second floor now. It's very exciting to see them building it. And that development, which I'm very excited about, that is the idea that's busing in, people coming in, it's tied to it. Because here, let me explain what happens. I worked yesterday, 12-hour shift at the crisis walk-in. Let's just say we had 12 people come in. On average, a lot of times people come in on what they call a 1013, involuntary. They come in from different counties. It's true. They come here because we have the state license for it that's been developed by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disorders. So when somebody is having a mental health crisis in Jackson County, Madison County, Oglethorpe County, they are supposed to be brought to here, to Athens-Clarke County, where we have the services for them. And a lot of times they come in for substance use. They come in for mental health, schizophrenia, suicidal ideation, whatever those things are. And then, a lot of times they are here for a little while trying to get the services and the help that they need. People are not being, if they're dropped in, that's already illegal. There's a state law against it being coming in. What is happening is, those sheriff's departments bring the people here, also the Piedmont, also the St. Mary's, all those counties I just said, they don't have hospitals, y'all. They don't have hospitals. So, as a flyer that was put out attacking me, saying that my opponent was going to get rid of all of the magnets that brought the homeless people here, those magnets are our hospitals. Those magnets are our behavioral health hospitals. Those magnets are the fact that we have a domestic violence shelter here, only 2 in this entire area. I don't want us to get rid of those. And you know what? The price sometimes is going to be that we're helping other people too. Wow. And I will admit that it's not the perfect system. I would love the state of Georgia to be giving funding and support to Madison County, Oglethorpe County, all these rural counties around us, so they can have their own hospitals, have their own behavioral health places, and I will fully support that and be at the state capitol lobbying for it. But until they don't, we need to stop attacking homeless people, acting like they're outsiders and pariahs, and that they're somehow suckling on the tit of Athens-Clarke County and using us. They're not. We're helping people.
Thank you. So, our homeless population is a population that's all our problem, all our concerns. I think one thing we got to look at, again, and Tim is right. When people do come here for mental health and substance abuse from other counties kick in. What I'm talking about, and he knows this is true, I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen the van from Fulton County pull up to the Sparrow's Nest and people get out. So that's not fair. to the people that's here. That's all I'm saying. I want to support and help the people that are here in Athens in this community. That's what we're supposed to be about, helping folks that are here. I've always tried to help the homeless population, and I always will continue to help the homeless population. But again, what I said earlier, it's going to take a village, a full community support to help us to curb some of the homeless issues that we have. We can't buy our way out of this. The government can't do all of this. We got to have partners to help us with this. We got to have partners that will help us with housing. We got to have partners who can put people in place. And our hospitals do a great job, but they're not equipped to deal with substance abuse or mental health issues. That's why the Advantage property and the construction is going there. It's going to me, I think it's going to be a game changer. It's going to help us, and it probably will help cut down on some of the issues that we're dealing with our homeless population. But I've never said, I'm not sure who sent you the flyer, but I never said that the homeless population that we need to step on. I would never say that. So for you to say that is wrong, and you know you're wrong, and you should not do that ever again.
I think we're going to it's about road safety.
Yeah, we talked a lot about housing clearly within the authority of the local government, planning and zoning. Another clear area of your authority will be road safety, planning roads, traffic calming measures, keeping our communities safe on the roads. From 2023 to 2025, 3 years, 45 people have died on Athens roads. So far this year, 4 have died. How, Mr. Fisher, will you plan on addressing this problem?
I think one thing we got to look at, and we're doing that right now, look at our traffic patterns and what's happening with those particular areas. We got to put in more traffic calming type things within, especially in the road system. Just in our district alone, to your point, had three fatalities on Newton Bridge and Calfwood. That needs to be a red light right there, because people be coming across that hill wide open. So we need to start really looking at how we're doing our road construction, how we're putting things together. 2 projects that I did in neighborhoods, actually, we put in speed bumps. Some people don't like speed bumps, but in Homewood Hills, we got speed bumps. We just started with Forest Heights, we got speed bumps. So those are the type of things that we got to do. But on our major areas, when we start looking at trying to construct those roads, one of the first things I would ask them to do, how do we do safety for those particular roads? What is that going to look like? Do we need to have more biking lanes? Do we need to have more walking lanes? Those are the type of things that we got to look at when we talk about safety and what happens. And we're going to have a great opportunity with this North Avenue corridor. It'll be a perfect example how we take care of that corridor and what happens there when we start looking at road safety.
Mr. Denson, road safety, people are dying on the roads routinely, and we might put in a speed bump or increase a curb cut, but the motorists might get mad. So where can we find the courage to save lives on our roads if somebody feels inconvenience as a driver?
Again, we're talking about one of those complex issues that everybody's not going to be happy about. Therefore, we need a mayor who's going to be able to do what's best for Athens and not just listen to every single person. When somebody comes up and says no at the podium, then we vote no. So yeah, we need to have, especially for our multimodal transportation here. So whenever I was on the commission, Jefferson Road was having multiple fatalities. Still a very dangerous road, very fast on there. So I worked with community members to get a SPLOST project put in place for transportation safety measures to be put in place there, which is still being worked on because things do take too long. I'll give you that. I know that Commissioner Fisher will agree with you on that one. But we put those funding in place. Same thing with Prince Avenue here, with us two-laning that road, or three-laning that road. We're going to have to take and make some different changes on how we think about transportation. If we want to keep pedestrians safe, if we want to keep cyclists safe, if we want to keep people waiting for their buses safe. And that's one of the reasons that it's a big part of this is funding. And that's why I have a proposal that I've been campaigning on called inclusionary parking, where we can be gathering a new funding source specifically so that we can build out sidewalks, crosswalks, bike lanes, and public transit system so that we can keep people more safe and get them around. But yeah, Right now, if we're talking about, we're going to choose if a person has to take an extra 3 seconds to get from downtown, from the county line, or we can make our community more safe and less people die, I'm going to choose the latter.
All right. Everything's interrelated here. So we're going to talk about infrastructure and density. Mr. Jackson is voting first. During the city-county consolidation of the early 90s, there were many promises made to different communities. One promise was to expand sewer capacity to various areas of the county. It has been over 30 years since consolidation, and these sewer expansions have not happened. A new study estimates that to expand sewer capacity north of the Loop in the Sandy Creek Basin would cost over $100 million. Do you believe that we should make good on these promises and expand sewer capacity to these communities? You have a minute and a half.
I believe that we need to start working towards it, which is what our county manager and our staff is proposing, with a timeline of different projects that will incrementally get us closer to that. I'll be honest though, I think that there was maybe a bunch of promises or ideas that were floated back during unification that were not realistic, and people were kind of being lied to be honest. And now we're dealing with the repercussions of that here later on, many decades later. But I do believe that we need to be working. First and foremost, I do think we need to be focusing on making sure that everybody has access to clean water, which we are much closer to than we are with the sewage. And I think that is a priority, because we still have some neighbors and some communities that do not have safe access to clean drinking water. And that's absolutely, that's unacceptable. And we are closer there, and I believe we can prioritize and get that done. When it comes to the sewers, I think we just need to start taking these incremental steps and slowly get us there, and also try to work with these communities to find ways that we can find some cost-saving measures where we can have maybe entire neighborhoods or developers helping chip in some of the costs to tie in things. But I'm not going to sit here and honestly lie and say that if I'm elected, we're going to have sewer to every single home, because it's just not going to happen right now.
Thank you. Mr. Fisher, do you believe that we should make good on these promises and expand sewer capacity to these communities?
And again, I agree with Tim. We can't just do this overnight, because this probably did not happen overnight. And again, I had just moved here when unification was being talked about, and he's right. People got lied to. I was sitting in on those meetings when they was talking about doing sewer and water countywide. Also talk about economic development within East Athens, and none of those things happened. Actually, if you go back and read the charter, 4 years after the charter started, sewer and water supposed to have started in this community, and that didn't happen. And it has built up. It is, matter of fact, I was surprised at how I thought the cost would be a lot higher than the $100 million that's been pronounced. But you're right, we can't just buy our way out of this one. It's gonna take time. But not only do we got to expand it, we got to improve the infrastructure that we got in place already, because that's crumbling. When I first started this campaign, none of the other candidates were talking about infrastructure till I started talking about it. I'm a facilities guy, and I understand to get things done, you gotta have stuff underneath to make sure it's working. So we didn't do that. So we have failed our community, past commissioners, past mayors, and now we got to play catch up. But again, it's gonna take time for us to do that. I think I wanna bring all our staff together and start chipping away at it. But also, just keep in mind, we gotta fix also what we already got in place. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fisher. A little bit of some frustration with our local government at times. And one thing that comes to my mind is that it took 23 years to put a protected bike lane that's about 0.7 miles. It took 17 years to connect the Greenway through O'Connell Cemetery.
You have 5 seconds.
It's taken 30 years and counting for the Firefly Trail. Do you feel like our citizenry is maybe losing faith in our local government's ability to deliver on promises, to build good things with the taxes y'all collect? And what would you do as mayor to speed it up and bring some of these projects, to deliver some of these projects?
1 minute.
Great question, Russell, and I've been talking about this. See, I've done SPLOST projects. I did it for the school district. We brought in 2 schools, a field house, and a track. And I was only there for 3 years. Within 2 years, under budget and on time. Problem we got in Clarke County is we try to collect the taxes first and then build. You can't do that because inflation catches up with you. In my administration, once a project is on paper and that's a priority, then we're gonna design it, we're gonna build it, and we're gonna get it done. You can't wait. We got stuff since 2011. 2011, that's still on the books. We got stuff from 2018 that's still on the books. That's unacceptable to you all out there. There's a better way. I know the better way. I've done this. I've been a hands-on manager, a hands-on leader, so I understand how to make those projects work and how to connect those dots. And you're going to need a leader who understands that to get things done moving forward.
Mr. Denson, it's a great community, but golly, it takes decades sometimes to build a sidewalk.
Russell, what were those 3 projects that you mentioned in the question?
23 years for the protected bike lane on Prince Avenue, 17 years to connect the Greenway through Oconee Hill Cemetery, 30 years in counting for the Firefly Trail.
So very proud to say that during my 4 years as a county commissioner before the state legislature removed me from office by redistricting, all 3 of those things were done whenever I was on the commission and got passed. Because one of the big things that we need is we need to have elected officials that are going to have a bias towards action, getting things done, and that are going to have the political will to move forward. All 3 of those things also had massive amounts of people, a lot of times not a large amount of people, but people coming to our podium saying they didn't want it to happen. And from what I'm understanding from Mr. Fisher is if that people come in and say they don't want it to happen, then he's not going to do it. And if that's the case, we need to have someone who's going to push things through. Again, we need to be having a government that's going to do what's best for Athens. It's not my personal ideas, my personal things, but we actually have studies. We know these projects, these things, and we need to move forward on them. And if we are delaying them constantly because people come up and complain about the Firefly Trail or complain about having the Greenway connected, you're not going to get things done. And that's one of the big reasons that things didn't get done until we had a commission and a mayor that was willing to move forward.
Actually, but the problem with that is, you all had it, but you didn't get anything done. What I'm saying is, we know what those projects are. You price them out. And I'll give y'all a perfect example right now. We voted, or this group voted on the Judicial Center. It started out as a $40 million project. Right now, we're looking at paying $200 million for Judicial Center. If you had commissioners on it that understood, yeah, let's go ahead and bond this particular Judicial Center, let's get it built, the Judicial Center would be in place right now. That's the type of mayor I would be. I would watch your pennies and watch your dollars and make sure things get built. That's part of the problem. That's why you all don't trust us, because we wait 18, 20 years to get things done. And that's unfortunate that these things happen with elected officials because they don't want to do the job and do the work.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pivoting to public safety, Mr. Denson, when you were serving on the county commission, I remember clearly I was serving as mayor pro tem and we were going through the budget discussions in the wake of COVID, George Floyd, meeting virtually, and you had a proposal that you worked on with another one of our colleagues known as the 50-10 plan, which would have moved to reallocate funds from the police department, 50%, within 10 years. There's been a lot of discussion about this plan over the years. And I wanted to ask you, now that you have this experience, years have passed since that proposal was floated, how do you feel about it today?
Yeah. For the general idea of it that was behind it, I still believe that we are putting so much responsibility on our police officers to be the people who are social workers, to be the people who are homeless services resource officers, to be the people who are responding to family violence issues, all these different things that we have shown, studies and studies have shown that are best dealt with when it's done through a mental health specialist, through a social worker, through the co-responder units. And I'll admit, I believe that this community is not ready and was not ready for to the level of what the 50-10 plan was. But I am also very proud that over the years, every single budget almost has expanded those co-responder units that we put in place during that budget so that we can actually be reacting more to those kind of emergencies and mental health crisis better than we were years ago. And right now, we're just still not responding to public safety in the way that I believe we should.
Talking about back in the blue, Mr. Fisher, let's talk about back in the red. There was a vote, I guess almost a year now ago, to site a new fire station on the east side of Athens. It went through a search committee twice, over 2 years of public meetings, trying to figure out where to put this fire station to expand service, to provide diligent service. The fire chief was very out front with his recommendation that this be built. You made a decision on that vote, and I was wondering if now, the time that has passed, have you thought more about that vote and thinking about, do you maybe wish that you had approached that differently?
Well, you know, Russell, safety should always be priority number one in anything that we do in this community. And again, for those people that live in that particular unit, in that particular part of the county, they was adamant that they did not want a fire station. I went and talked to some of those folks, and it wasn't in my district, so I did talk with those residents in that particular area. But they was pretty adamant that they did not want a fire station. Now the vote passed. So one thing about me, you win some and you lose some, and that's okay. And we move forward. They got a fire station out there. It's going to add more safety to the to that particular community. But why you didn't ask me about the blue question? But that's okay. But you know, I feel adamant about, you know. Let me tell y'all something. I'm never going to apologize for the last 4 years that I've been on that commission for any vote that I've taken. You know, if it was the wrong vote, it was the wrong vote. I'm man enough to admit that, and we keep it moving. Then we live the fight for another day, but I'm never going to apologize for any vote that I've taken over the last 4 years that I've been on that commission.
All right. Let's move on to another area here. It's a new segment on our debate series where we ask the current commissioners to ask you questions. Yeah.
We didn't know what those questions are.
Get ready. So, Mr. Denson, I'll just go to you first, and then Mr. Fisher. Commissioner Melissa Lee from District 2 asked, what accomplishment from your time on the commission are you most proud of? What decision from your time on the commission do you most regret?
Yeah, okay, great question. I think the one that I'm most proud of would be getting the eviction prevention program put in place. It was a lot of work. Worked with officials in Gwinnett County, pulling them together to help us model what they've had in place over there with our own staff. And it took a while, again, longer than it should have to get pushed through because there was a lot of political pushback at first. But we got that program put in place, and because of it, kept over 830 families in their homes instead of being evicted. And we want to talk about the best way to combat homelessness is to make sure that people don't become homeless in the first place. And that's one of the biggest reasons I think that eviction prevention program has been so successful, and that if I'm elected, that will become a fully funded program that we will move forward as part of our budget. Also, definitely zero fare public transit system in place. Very proud of that one too. And then the one that I would regret, and I've talked about it publicly. Okay. You know that whenever we had the police, the Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board, and we were picking who was going to serve on that board. And there was a group of folks who really didn't want to see that board existing, and that was their prerogative. And some of them applied to be on the board. And I sent text messages to some of my colleagues, which was completely a legal way because they were open record. And the way I addressed it was improper, and I should not have, saying that, you know, make sure that these Republicans, and I should not have been saying that because I think that was unnecessarily divisive and unfair. And so I think that was, and I've owned up to that, and I've learned from that, and we'll continue to.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fisher. What accomplishment from your time on the commission are you most proud of, and what do you have as the most regretful?
So one of my biggest passions is the young people in this community, our youth development. And one of the things that we've done and that my colleague, we had money sitting from ARPA for youth development that wasn't getting used. So one of the things we did was we made sure that we opened up 4 community centers in our Athens housing projects to make sure those young people will have somewhere to go on a daily basis. And I'm really proud that we did that. There's an ongoing program that's happening. Now all those kids this summer will spend time at HT Edwards and also at Shallow Boys and Girls Club. So that's going to be very beneficial to them. And then when they come back in the fall, those 4 community centers will be there for those young people to help them with educational needs, help them as growing needs. And so some of the things for me, anytime it comes to our young people, is really part of my passion. Be honest with you guys, there haven't been a lot of regrets for me. I think one of the things that has bothered me is that our community has lost trust in us as a government. And I want to build that trust back. And I think we need to do better from a transparency perspective, from accountability perspective. So for me, we need to build that trust back. And I regret that our community don't trust us to do the work that you all actually hired us to do. So as the next mayor, we're going to have transparency, we're going to have accountability, and we're not going to do anything illegal or unethical, so we'll be embarrassed by as we move forward.
Mr. Denson.
When I go first?
So, well, this one, this is coming to you with the bark on from one of your former colleagues. All right, from Commissioner Allison Wright. Oh, this is indeed a great question. And I spoke with Commissioner Wright before reading this aloud. Oh, this is indeed a great question. For Tim, no team in Tim, only an I. I would ask how he plans to work with folks he never worked with before. I experienced him as a dude that only had his agenda in mind, not woman-friendly and never collaboratively beyond his small circle. In 4 years, he never asked for my opinion, not once. A great question for your podcast would be aligned with what skill set do you have that helps improve community relations and commissioner support? Tim is divisive and portrays himself differently for campaigning. His wish list of mending his divisive past is not realistic.
One minute.
Sure, yeah.
You can do
Okay. Oh. Well, Commissioner Wright's not a fan. And that's fine. It is fine. I can definitely tell you that, that got pretty personal, and I'm not going to do that back because I think that's kind of almost like what's trying to get me into there. This is the thing. And if anybody who's ever took the time to get to know me, anybody who's worked with me over the last 15 years as a community organizer, they know that I meet people where they're at. I will listen to folks. I will, I desperately want to work with people because as one of the big parts of community organizing is that you're not organizing for people, you're organizing with people. And that's why a big part of my, when I was on the commission, I came on and said that I'm going to hold a town hall basically every month that I'm on the commission. And I did. I held at least 10 every single year, more than 40 town halls when I was on the commission for those 4 years. And I will do the same thing as a mayor, going into the communities, not expecting them to come to meetings where oftentimes, especially for public comment, where you have certain commissioners, and I won't say names, who would leave early before the public comment ever happened, almost every single meeting. And I want to make sure that I'm sitting there listening to people, working with people. I was out knocking over 40 doors just this afternoon before coming here over on 4th Street, talking to folks at their door, listening to what their issues are, listening to what their concerns are. That's how I govern, and that's how I will continue to govern. And I will happily meet with every single commissioner and every single state rep Houston Gaines also worked to get me redistricted out of there. But you know what? I met with that guy for coffee multiple times a year, every single time. And I will continue to do so if I'm elected. So.
Rough and tumble world of politics. Mr. Fisher, any remarks from you?
Sure.
That question?
Yeah, well, for me, I've always been a collaborator, always been one who can bring people together, and that's my superpower. I sit down with people that's different from me, people have political ideology from me, and that's what I've done my whole life. I've always gone, and Tim said he's been to 4th Street. Well, I've been going to 4th Street in those areas for years. Not sure how many times he's been on it, but I've gone into these projects and talked with those young people. One of the things I pride myself on, and I tell people is, if I get an invitation to go talk to young people, no matter what I'm doing, if I have to change schedules, I'm gonna do that. Because they need to understand that they can achieve and do whatever they want to do. When I worked at UGA, and I worked for 3 different presidents, Chuck Knapp, Michael Adams, and Jerry Moorhead. All 3 of those presidents had me at their table, helping them how we can shape things at the University of Georgia. When I ran my department, I had over 500 employees. I had more women, more people of color in leadership positions. We set up GED programs. We sent them back to Athens-Clarke. We did all those things in my career. I know how to build coalitions. I understand coalition. You can't do these things in silos. And sometimes people try to do that because they think they're smarter than everybody else. But me as your next mayor, I'm going to work with the whole community. That's why I said my first 100 days, we're hitting the ground running. And I told these people who's getting elected, you better put your running shoes on because we're going to be out in these streets talking to this community, and you're all going to help us shape our strategic plan over the next 4 years.
All right, that concludes the commission questions.
That's all? That was terrible.
All right.
From commissioners.
All right, we had a couple commissioners ask multiple ones, so, all right.
Keep this part of me.
All right, we'll keep it going. Okay, on the heels of your remarks, Mr. Fisher, who wants to take this question first? Okay, Mr. Fisher. All right. We need to rock it. All right. Is it important to work with UGA? If so, what are specific actions or policies you would work towards with UGA? This question comes from Commissioner Oviedo Thornton.
I think we cannot work with UGA. I mean, it's the largest employer. It's the elephant in the room. It's the largest employer in this community. I spent 32 years on that campus. I understand the ins and outs. We gotta have a relationship with them. Nothing happens in this community without UGA. Right now, at least on the upper echelon, there's not a relationship. Now, our staff, they get along great. But from day one, I will have an audience with Jerry Moorhead. And some of the conversations I'm having with them right now is reducing the number of cars that freshmen can bring on campus. To me, that's important. Having those conversations about building more dorms. Having those conversations about how we can collaborate together to make a better Athens for everybody. I'm the only candidate, and it was just the 2 of us, who can do that from day one. Same thing at Athens-Clarke. I spoke at their commencement last year. Same thing with the school system. And I worked in the school system. So I understand how those relationships work. This last commission, they talked bad about UGA. They did not want to have anything to do with them. They said nasty things about them. That's not how you build relationships with the largest employer in this county. Now, do they have issues there? You're doing right, they do. And I understand that there's not a perfect employer in this town. But at least we need to be having some meaningful conversations for how we can make all of Athens better for everybody. I know how to connect those dots. I understand how to connect those dots. And we'll have a seat at the table on day one in my administration.
Athens for everybody or Athens for everyone? All right, so same question. Work with UGA. What are the specific actions or policies you would work towards with UGA?
I think everyone just rolls off the tongue better, but.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, obviously we do. The Athens wouldn't be Athens without the University of Georgia, and the University of Georgia wouldn't be what it is without Athens. We're very much tied into this. And, but I do believe that UGA needs to do more. I do. For too long, wages were stagnated here. And it's the largest employer, yet for so long, in some positions, they're still not paying a living wage. I expect more from state institutions who are the largest employers here. But yes, the way that we get those things changed is by having a healthy relationship and conversation. And I do believe also that the relationship right now is pretty unhealthy. So we need to come to the table with both of them, but not give UGA, not just give everything up. We're not going to just settle for that. We need UGA to step up. Right now, yeah, UGA owns a ton of property and they don't pay taxes. Obviously, that was a big part, that they do not pay any kind of taxes into the system. There are ways that we can work with them to maybe, again, the student overlay district that we have on the edge of campus, possibly University of Georgia uses some of their property for that overlay district and puts it in. So finding those ways that we can find common ground and move forward. Again, homelessness, I think a big one. Finding that common ground, the ways that we can move forward. But at the same time, not selling out our community, because our community deserves better.
Yeah, so just to respond to that, one of the taxes that usually does pay is our stormwater fees. So that's one of the things that they do. But again, I think what we got to do, and again, as your mayor, I'm going in there as a mayor, not as a former employee. So they'll understand that. And what I'm bringing to the table is, let's start this conversation right now, because I am at that table. And yeah, they can do better. And one thing that we need to really focus on, not so much at the top, but those are a number of departments that I had conversation with some of those deans. They are willing to kick in money with us to do the things that we need done. But again, you got to go ask the question. You got to have a seat at the table. Last commission, 4 years before me, that didn't happen because everything was, there was a big devil in the room. That's not how we need to handle or talk with the people that, that live in this community. That's not what we do. We're better than that.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Okay, we've got our next portion of the debate where the candidates can ask each other questions.
And before we do this, audience members, we'll be asking you to ask some questions after this segment. So put your thinking caps on and we'll give you more instructions in a minute, okay? All right. So, Mr. Fisher, how would you ask the first question to Mr. Denson?
Sure. One of the things Tim has sort of accused me of is, I think maybe in our first forum where he said that a developer gave me, well, let me back up. One of the things he said on his website, that all the money that I've taken in came from corporations and PACs. And I need you to tell this audience tonight that's not true. And you know it's not true. Every penny, every dime, every dollar, every $100 I've gotten came from individuals, not only in this community, but people that I've developed relationships over the last 40 years of my life. My college roommates, people from my hometown. So for you to put that on your website, to say, this is what I raised, hardworking people, this is what this guy raised, corporations and PACs. You need to tell this audience that that's not true.
Mr. Denson, what do you tell this audience? Question mark.
Yeah. And I'm sorry you took that personally. I'm actually looking at the post now because you've brought this up to me before. And it says, some of Tim's opponents have deep pockets. And it goes into that we're not taking any money from, it says some candidates who have relied on donations from corporations and PACs. I will say this, it never states your name one time, Commissioner Fisher. You can use my phone if you want.
You ain't got to, I saw it myself.
Just wanted to make sure you knew.
Yeah.
It does not say your name one time. And it's kind of the situation of don't protest too much. It doesn't say anything about you on there. But what has happened, I think all of us have experienced, is that there are PACs involved in this campaign. Mm-hmm. And those PACs, they might not have given you money directly, which is not oftentimes what PACs do, but those PACs have sent derogatory mailers to our entire community in support of you, calling me out for my working class background, which I'm very proud of, for leaving out every female candidate who has been running for mayor. And yet that Athens Forward PAC I have received 4 mailers supporting you in that. And so I am not, and I have not personally, and I will say this right now, I am not accusing Commissioner Fisher of taking money directly from PACs or any corporations. I am not. I have not said that, and I'm not saying that. And if I have said anything that's made that construed, I am not saying that. But what is going on is that we do have a PAC right now with absolutely thousands of dollars, for some reason, pushing you, putting your quotes and quotes from your endorsees onto these things, trying to lead voters astray here in Athens-Clarke County. I don't think that's right, and I'm not accepting any of that kind of money. My campaign is running something very different. I know that wasn't coming from your campaign, but it's still happening, and I would love to hear that you denounce this PAC and ask them to stop doing that, not to do that during the runoff.
You know what? And I'm glad you said that, because I did. Matter of fact, my team, we got together. And again, so Russell and Drew, so you'll know, we don't know who the PACs are. And he's right. We don't.
Everybody know. Athens forward.
Yeah. So we don't.
Now, stand up.
So we don't control our campaign. So you all understand how PAC work. No candidate controls what PACs put out. I had no control. They didn't reach out to our team and say we was going to do this. And I have said we don't want you to put out anything about my campaign without our permission. And my campaign manager sitting in the front seat would tell you that. So I've said that publicly. So I don't control that, and to you, I don't appreciate that. I don't need nobody to toot my own horn. I got a pretty good horn to toot myself. So I don't need nobody, So I don't need PAC to tell me, and you're exactly right. You're exactly right. They put that out, had me and your picture, 3 other candidates were in the race. What a dumb thing to do. That should have never happened. But again, I don't control it, and I'm saying this publicly. I don't need their money. We run a clean campaign, have not taken any money from corporations or from PACs.
Thank you. And just to be clear, Athens Forward is not a PAC, it's an independent committee.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference. Google it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
There are actually important differences between a PAC and an independent committee. Okay. Nevertheless, Mr. Denson, please ask your question, Mr. Fisher.
Sure. Commissioner Fisher, at previous debate, you said that you do not believe that we can afford to have zero fare public transit anymore. Yet, you have been very forcefully pushing for us to have a subsidized airline to be at our airport here in Athens, Georgia. So I am curious why it's a higher priority for you for us to work towards having a commercial airline, which back into the reason we lost this airline is because we could not average more than 6 passengers a day. Yet we have an Athens transit system that has 2.1 million rides that working class Athenians use every single day to get by, to get to work, to get their jobs, and to get the things they need to do. Why will you not support Athens transit subsidies, but you will support subsidies for a commercial airline?
Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. And that's a fair question. First of all, not that I don't support free fare. The problem is, how do you sustain that? The legislature just passed legislation right now where in the SPLOST project, they're taking away any free fare type subsidies in our community. So how are we going to pay for that? That's a real question. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm against free fare, but that's a legitimate question. How are we going to sustain free fare? And if we're talking about expanding into other counties, expanding into our routes, that money got to come from somewhere, Tim. So how are we going to pay for it? Now, on the airline, you're right. Back in 2014, we lost our airline. Right now, 1,600 people a day leave Athens, Georgia, to go to either Atlanta or Greenville to catch a flight. To me, that doesn't make sense. And we already got 3 airlines talking to us, and we don't have to add subsidies for these airlines. Those airlines would pay for themselves. Right now, how we make money out there right now is through private charters and with our gas tax. So for me, and it brings economic development, and we hadn't even talked about that. I'm not sure why y'all guys have not talked about economic development, which is so critical to grow this community, and nobody has talked about it the whole 15 times that we've been on these forums. And we need to talk about economic development in this community and how it's going to help expand our community and possibly help people get off out of housing and to get them into homes. So we need to be really having some really tough, good conversation about our economic development here in this community also.
Maybe someone in the audience cares about economic development. Does anybody care? Let's see.
So we have probably 2 or 3 questions.
Does anybody care out there? Anybody care about the economy? Anybody? Oh, right here. Richard Winfield. Hi.
Both of you speak about affordability. and generally focused on prices, levels of rents, potentially mortgage payments, like. But what neither of you have spoken about are the levels of income and the levels of retirement and disability benefits. I think all of you know that there are too many people in Athens who are working full-time, have poverty wages, and are receiving poverty, retirement, and disability benefits. What do you think you can do as a mayor to eliminate or decrease poverty income and poverty benefits?
You got to repeat that, Russell.
Mr. Fisher, go ahead.
I'm not exactly sure what he's asking. You mentioned retirement. Can you sort of give me a scale, Russell, about what Richard is asking? Is it more about retirement, Richard, or is it more about affordability of wages? I'm just trying to understand the question. That's all.
How about you just shoot us your economic vision, economic development?
Well, I think one of the things we need. Okay, one of the things that we need to really talk about is bringing more industry to the community. Right now, we got a company, a Miser, 1,700 jobs that's going to be coming to this community, a biotech company. Starting salary going to be $65,000 a year. Those are the type of clean jobs that we need, and I want to attract those type of companies here. And again, we want to talk about getting people into housing. We need those high-paying jobs, but at the same time, we got to get people trained. I'd rather us spend money in training programs to make sure people can have jobs and make sure they can stay on those jobs with retirement, health care. And also, one of the things I talked with Miser about, since Tim talked about child care, is would they be interested in putting a child care facility on their campus to help with the employees that work there? I think those are some of the things that we need to look at when we're attracting businesses. Child care should be actually the number one issue with helping those people that's going to be working for them. So to me, that's the type of thing I like to see coming to our community.
All right, Mr. Denson, economic development.
Sure, and to speak directly to some of Richard's question, one of the things that we can do is that we need to keep funding our neighborhood leaders program, which was discussed about, almost didn't make funding this past year. That needs to be in there because those individuals are specifically helping folks get on the disability, get their SSI, get on retirement, helping them with a lot of different services, helping them get on caps for childcare, helping them get the SNAP. Because those systems are difficult, and right now we have the federal government and the state government has been intentionally making them even more difficult. Another thing, though, is that we need to be increasing wages. And it's difficult for us to do at a mayor's level, but one of the things that I will put in place is the Mayor's Living Wage Award, because we can't force businesses to be paying a living wage, but we can give them incentives. And so that we are praising those businesses and entities that do pay every single employee a living wage or higher, so that we can be encouraging people to go to those businesses, and you can see which businesses are on that list and which ones aren't. And you make the choice where you want to spend your money.
All right. We have a question.
Hey everyone, my name is Nally Cato and I'm a musician here in town. Athens has a really rich music culture that draws visitors, drives economic activity, and shapes our city's identity. Yet many of the musicians who create that culture struggle to earn a living wage. I know myself and my bandmates, many people, we put so much work into shows, and after weeks and weeks of work and practice rehearsals, all take home $10. What concrete policy tools would you use to ensure that working musicians can afford to live in the city they help define?
Take 1 minute each.
So one of the things that whenever I was on the commission, we explored, but then unfortunately the state government said we couldn't do it, was to actually be able to give a discounted liquor license rate to venues that could prove that they were paying, again, a living wage to the performers who perform at their venues. So I want us to continue exploring that and find ways that we can possibly do different levels of occupation tax for those businesses, because they are supporting and giving back to the artists and musicians who work here in our community. The other big thing that I am proposing as part of my platform is creating an entertainment district here downtown that will allow open containers here in downtown Athens, like they've done in Commerce and Winder and many other smaller rural communities that have shown that this can work. And then having that as in designated cups that they would buy from the county, so that we would actually be making revenue off of it every time somebody has an outside cup. And then using that money to pour back into downtown, into our festivals we have, AthFest, making sure that we have better public safety downtown, better resources, better infrastructure, because again, we're going to need to find new revenue sources so that we can be supporting those artists and the beautiful downtown that supports them.
And that is a toughie, you know, when we got, and I love music, and I appreciate the music that you bring in, and that's a toughie there. I think for us, those venues that are being used for you all to do your music, we need to put some pressure on them. Say, hey, if we've got a packed house, you all pay us for what we and how we perform and what we bring to the table. So I think part of that is part of the negotiation. With you being a sort of private contractor, I think you have to put pressure on those businesses. If you want me to perform, you need to pay me. If we're packing this place out, then I need to get paid accordingly. So I think it's important that you use your negotiation and how you do things in order to make sure you get paid by those venues that you're doing your music for. So that would be, and I would support you 100%. That's how we start having those conversations and make sure those music venues are paying you the wage that you deserve as a musician.
All right, we have one last question before we go to final sentence.
Hey, thank you very much for taking time on Saturday afternoon. I was a little disappointed in both of your answers for the infrastructure and sewage. My property taxes have doubled in the last 6 years, and we have not done anything for sewer. And it's really a problem from an infrastructure perspective. Both of you have been on the commission and have not executed. And I heard both of you say that you might have a chance to get to it. I didn't hear anything firm or complete, but we were going to get to it. We burned through SPLOST, we burned through this dollars. We need some accountability. I need to hear from you, what are you going to do to hold people accountable?
When you say to hold people accountable, what, at the end there, what were you, hold which people? Us? You're saying hold the government accountable?
Commission, mayor, people that are in charge.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, one of the things is, I mean, that infrastructure is one of the most expensive things that we have to deal with here, and one of the most challenging. And I think part of it's we're gonna have to get creative and work to find new revenue sources. Commissioner Fisher spoke about the project of the student housing over there on the north part of the downtown. Part of what's happening is they're giving, was it $9 million? $7 million, but then $9 million for affordable housing.
No, 7. That was 7.
No, they're doing, I know they're doing sewer and they're doing affordable housing. I believe it's a total of $16 million.
Yeah.
So that's one of those creative ways that we're going to have to deal with things. My opponent here voted against that. I think that makes it, we're going to have to find those kind of things so that we can get that money. Because we have a hole right now. We need to have more revenue going towards that infrastructure. And I think that we should be relying on the developers who are building more housing here, having them pay a larger portion of it, just like they did in that project. That way we can be moving the money that we already have designated towards some of those more challenging areas outside of the downtown area.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And you're right. But I talked about this earlier in our forum, though. One thing we're playing catch up. You know, this is just not happened 4 years, 8 years, or 12 years. This started some 30 years ago about our infrastructure and what needs to happen. And you're right. But we have to be. It's going to take time. This is not going to happen overnight. I'm not going to try to get any political points for this, but it is going to take some time. It's going to be costly. We got to figure out how, but what I bring to the table, though, is make sure we get those projects done in a timely manner, and we're not waiting 10, 15, and 20 years for a project to get completed. So that's what I'm going to do as your next mayor, make sure those projects get completed on time. And yes, I did vote against that particular project, and the reason I did, if you put a 450-car garage in front of a community center that's going to impact black kids, you darn right I'll vote against it. Because why would you put a parking deck where children go on a daily basis, and now their parents are going to have a difficult time trying to drop them off? So yeah, I did vote against that project because it was a bad project.
All right, we have one more, and I'm sure the candidates will be hanging around afterwards. You can ask them. But we have a nice lady here who's patiently waiting. Go ahead.
How you doing? Well, my question is about homelessness.
About the who?
There's been a lot of false arrests, and then when these people are found are innocent. They spent a lot of money out, paying attorneys to do these cases, and then they walk away and the police around here is not being held accountable for the things that they're doing. And it has happened several times, which I'm one of the ones that it has happened to. And then when everything comes to light, I'm left with a bag of having to pay out debt for something that wasn't even, nobody's held accountable for. And I need to know what do you all want to do about that?
So I think I understood your question. So
Accountability.
it is accountability, but I think to me it's the court's accountability. Our officers can arrest them, but when they go to trial, it's the judges who are making those decisions. And you're right. Some people do the crime, they get a good attorney, get back on the streets. But if it's a jury trial, the jury's making that decision. But if it's the judge who's making those decisions, I think one of the biggest things that I hear from our officers. That's not what she asked?
No, I'm not saying that. They're innocent.
Oh, okay.
They're innocent. They falsely arresting these people, and when they're found innocent, there's nothing done about it. And my question to you is, there's a lot of cases that I know, which I am one of the ones that have witnessed it, and nothing was done about the police when they did the damage.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. So one of the things that we did do, and I give credit to my colleague over here, we created a public service oversight committee, which is called Peace Corps. And one of the things now that people that feel they've been falsely arrested or falsely accused of, they can go through that process. And that committee, which is an independent committee, and if the police department been found to not have done their job or falsely arrest somebody, then what we do is deal with that situation, deal with that officer, either through reprimand or through termination. But we do have a committee in place called Peace Corps, where as a citizen, you can write your complaint, send that information to the Peace Corps committee. They'll make a concerted effort to maybe get down to what's happening and try to get that case resolved or see why the police did what they did and make them be held accountable for their actions.
It's situations just like that, which is why I worked with some of my colleagues in the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement and the Georgia ACLU to create that Public Safety Civilian Oversight Board. And it's also why I worked to make sure that that board didn't have people sitting on it who wanted to dissolve the board. Because it's very important, because we do have injustices happening constantly in our criminal justice system. And it's also one of the reasons that I do believe we need to be taking a different take at public safety. We can't just be expecting us to arrest all of our problems away, putting more and more people in jail, expanding the jail. It's inhumane, it's ineffective, and I believe that Athens-Clarke County does not believe in doing things that way. And right now, we do have a criminal justice system that arrests far more black and brown people in this community and puts far more black and brown people in that jail and keeps black and brown people a lot more longer in that jail than they do the Caucasian counterparts. And that's why we need to be doing we have to do something different. It's not working. And so yes, did I propose something that was very controversial with the 50-10 plan? I did, but it's because I'm trying to explore to find solutions to these problems instead of relying on what's not working right now, especially for minorities here in this community.
Thank you. Participating in small D democracy. We will now move to the final portion of the event with the closing statements, and then we will close her down.
Mr. Denson, you'll go first. You have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
All right, we're bring the lights down a little bit, yeah. Get some mood lighting here. Y'all, thank y'all for being here tonight, and thank you for honestly your patience of going through another election. And you know, for this runoff, it's gonna be on June 16th. Again, like I said, I'm running because I love this community. I'm not perfect. I'm not gonna present that I am, but I do believe that working with this community, we can make a more perfect Athens-Clarke County that does work for everyone and is more affordable for everyone. I've dedicated my life, honestly, to serving this community because it served me so well. And that's why I've been working as a community organizer almost most of that time, completely unpaid for the last 15 years. Working as a school board member that I'm currently on, working as a county commissioner, serving on numerous boards and committees, trying to make this community work better. And I want to do that with y'all. It's going to be hard. But I'll tell you this, that again, we have all these problems that we're talking about. We have to do something about it. We've had local governments in the past who accepted the fact that we have a criminal justice system that doesn't work, especially for Black and brown people. We've had local governments that accept that this community is getting more and more unaffordable and haven't done much about it. That there's not enough housing for folks, that people can't afford childcare, that people can't get around this community safely. We can do a lot about this. And I can tell you one thing I can guarantee you is that I will work like hell to solve these problems. And I will work with you. I want to be innovative. I want to have that bias towards actions. We're getting things done. And so that people look at Athens, Georgia, and they're like, hell yeah, why can't my community be more like that? And I believe that we can get there. And I can also tell you this, if you vote for me on June 16th and you elect me, I'll be in City Hall doing all that work. If you don't vote for me on June 16th and I'm not elected, I'll be doing that work in the streets with you, either way. I love y'all, I love this community. Thanks for being here. I can't wait to go see the mountain goats right after this at the 40 Watt. Thanks, y'all.
Again, we want to thank you all for coming out tonight. And this is what democracy looks like. And that's what needs to happen, where we see two candidates that are vying to be your next mayor. I've been here 40 years in this community. I've started I didn't just move here for a cause. First of all, I moved here for school, but at the same time, I got involved immediately when it came to our unification, what this community is going to look like over the next 10, 15, 20 years. I've seen the growth. I've seen some of the things that we need to do here. My candidacy as mayor, and what I bring to the table, I bring leadership skills. I bring skills that can bring people together. I'm not divisive. I've always been one who can bring folks together and get people to sit down and have meaningful conversations. You know, he talks about, it's interesting, white guy talking about Black and brown get arrested. You know, I understand that. Been there, done that. I understand what it's like driving in my car and get stopped. Because the officer thought I was somebody else. I understand that. And yeah, our criminal justice system is bad and we need to correct it, but I've lived that life. I grew up in the 60s and I understand what it was like. Somebody called you the N-word. So I understand that. So I know what it's like. I have those life experiences and I understand that this community is going to bring all of us together. I know I can bring all of us together. I can have those meaningful conversations with anybody. Always have, will always continue to do. If I'm elected as your mayor, and I talked about this, my first 100 days, we're going to be out in these communities talking to you. You're going to help us decide how you want to see us over the next 4 years. That's critical. I'm not going to sit up in City Hall. I'm going to be out in the streets talking to you. You're talking to me, and I'll return your phone calls. One thing that I pride myself on, when I got elected as Commissioner District 5, I would call you back within 48 hours. So, Dexter Fisher's the man for the job. I know I can do this job. I've been preparing for this job for the last 40 years. If you elect me as your mayor, I will not embarrass you. I will make sure that I do right by you, and I'll be glad to serve as your next mayor starting in 2027. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Your friends, so they know when to vote. I'm Russell Edwards from AthChat. My co-host is Drew Abney.
We'll have a podcast episode coming out next tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our celebrity ushers, Fred Smith, Joe Lee, Doc Bear,